This is Dr. Daniel Sabol, and welcome to the Cognitive Edge. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Dawn Bartz. Dr. Bartz is a retired superintendent, an educational technology expert, and she has brought and brings so much education and knowledge to the field that I am excited she's here today with us to talk about her experience. So, Dawn, can you tell me a little bit about how you actually got to this point?
Well, first, Dr. Sabol, thank you so much for inviting me. As I told you, this is my very first podcast, so I'm thrilled and very gracious opening. I am recently retired. I have been in K-12 education for a little over 40 years. So I started when we called it, the chalk talk. I'm going to say pre-technology as a young teacher, and that's really where I've spent most of my career, is actually in the classroom. So I was a high school English and social studies teacher for well over 20 years before going into administration. So I've been an assistant principal, a district administrator, a superintendent, and now I'm doing a little bit of educational consulting and working just lightly with some global tech companies, but also with some school districts and in higher education. So as an adjunct professor, just continuing an area that I just love being in, and very fortunate to be in the community college district where I started back in the 1990s. So I'm thrilled to be doing this in retirement.
To point towards that, when we worked together, you were always a wonderful mentor. You were always somebody that I looked up to. And I think that it's such of a wonderful opportunity for the students who you're teaching and the students you're working with now in higher ed, because they will gain so much knowledge and such a wealth of experience from you, not only from the book reading and so forth, but just your general knowledge, and then on top of that, your technology knowledge. It's just so deep, and you're such a wonderful person and so easy to work with that I really think that this is going to be a great opportunity for students, and it already probably has been. So you had, and we had spoken about, and you had spoken about working in the classroom, and then you said you had switched into admin and then technology. Where do you see the future of, say, ed tech and tech going as of now?
Well, great question, because I don't, where I want to start is where I don't see technology going. I don't see it ever replacing teachers in the classroom. Just that human connection, that teacher as, not only as an expert in terms of content knowledge, but really the facilitator for student learning and for growth. But where I see technology and where I see it going, and where I think it's been, particularly since the pandemic, when we were working together, we were always troubleshooting together different types of instructional technology. What's going to engage students? What's going to help teachers to do their jobs? What's going to help administrators? So I see it not as ever a replacement for teaching, but two things. How do we help teachers? How do we facilitate instruction in different ways? Certainly in support of teachers and other educators, but also how do we increase access for students? And I think what we saw, really the silver lining, if you will, of the pandemic was that we were able to see that schools actually can change so quickly. and we needed to. And technology helped us to reach students that we weren't able to when we had to go home, and find different ways of connecting with our students. It really supported our educators in terms of keeping those communities of our schools going. It wasn't the same, it wasn't in
Right.
person, but that social interaction, continuing with instruction, finding meaningful ways that can engage students, and for students that maybe had difficulty even in the classroom accessing instruction and learning. We were able to find that devices and how we facilitated instruction using technology really was able to reach students, and continues to, whether it's speech to text, text to speech, having textbooks read to students who might have difficulty or may take a very long time, and even in terms of translating their ideas. I think also it can help students to be even more creative. So that's where I see technology is it will never replace great teaching, but it will help. It will help to make instruction accessible to more people, including at the community college level, where many of my students are first generation learners and adult learners and looking for career advancement. So I see technology and being able to provide assistance in a lot of ways.
Yes. And the thing that I did see with you was is how wonderful you were in adapting very rapidly to change. Was that something that is it something that you think that you were kind of born with, or was it something that you acquired over the years, with with your working with tech and students? You know, that was a thing with me that I noticed, and kind of how did you get that?
I think that's a great question. I love that question about change. I am someone who is probably less afraid of change than many people. For instance, I've worked in different systems, whether it's California, Connecticut, New York. So that type of change is energizing to me sometimes. But I think ask any veteran teacher, and change is part of a job. Our learning environments have changed. For instance, when I was starting teaching in the 1980s, we were chalk, and I was able to see the first computers come in, the internet come in, one-to-one device. I sound ancient right now, but seeing all these, and then the instructional technology, what type of programs actually were valuable for our learners. I think circumstances and time, both, we have to adapt, certainly as teachers. Even just going into a classroom, it's a live audience, right? You know that it's a live audience every day, and we're constantly getting cues, and you've got to make modifications not only on the spot, but also in terms of your future teaching. Okay, what worked, what didn't work, so I think it is part of the job, and having done that for several decades, I think, just speaking for myself, but I think also many veterans in there, you have to change with the times. So it is really a part of the job, and with technology, it changes so rapidly.
Yes.
We are forced, and it's, believe me, I know how difficult our classroom teachers have in terms of learning the curriculum, having so many different diverse types of learners in there, and other pressures of teaching that, I don't want technology to be seen as, this is just another thing I have to master and spend many hours. I see the best technology is, how does it support instruction? So if you're a teacher and you have years and years of great lessons, you shouldn't have to retype those in to use technology. How can technology help us to adapt and use platforms that help move us along? So when I was offering professional development, it was what can you use right now? Like you leave this session or you're in this session, you can use this tomorrow. And so I think also the pandemic, I hate to come back to that all the time, but we had to move. You remember,
Sure.
we were moving from very traditional, very large urban district to, okay, how do we keep instruction going? So there was an urgency that was there, because otherwise we were losing our students,
Right.
had our teachers or administrators also at home as well. So how can we connect people, and how can we very quickly train, right, 1,000 educators? I counted on people like you and others who were not afraid of change, and we jumped in and we learned it together. Because we needed to help our colleagues, and we needed to make connections with our families at home, because again, being in a district with a high poverty rate, our students didn't have one-to-one, back in 2020. Maybe families had a one computer for everybody in the home. So we had to think outside of the box. First, how do we get access? How do we get internet connections to everyone? Cost? How do we get devices? Applying for as many grants as possible. And then how do we find and partner with ed tech so that we have platforms that are going to be easier to use and provide assistance for our educators and for our families.
Yeah. And these are such great points. And again, this is why I say that you're one of my favorite administrators. And I remember I used to go out and I would purposely scour the internet looking for the best piece of technology to submit to you to see what you thought. And I would always get like a thumbs up back. And I was always like, yes, this is great. This is so super now. I was given the thumbs up by Dr. Bartz to add something new to our, maybe our system. And it felt like, it was something special. And that's what I felt made you such a wonderful leader. My last question for you is, going from that to superintendent, was there like a major change, you think? Or, how did that feel, so to speak?
Well, every different position, it's new learning, certainly new learning for me. But what was so wonderful is that having, significant teaching background, that has always been the foundation. And my belief is that what happens, of importance happens in the classroom, those interactions with kids. And what you said, I so kind of you to say, but about me giving you the thumbs up, quite honestly, I was learning like other people, but I also knew what I didn't know, Danny. So people like you that knew more than me, I love it when, teachers and administrators said, can we try this? Because what did we have to lose? So if someone can do something better and we can reach kids and we can make instruction more engaging, more powerful, we can help our educators in the classroom. Absolutely. We have, as administrators, we have to support that. And if it's not going to work for our teachers, then it's not going to work for our kids. So I had so many wonderful experiences as a teacher, as a department chair, different pathways in terms of administration, that I was fortunate. I used all of those tools and experiences, in terms of being a superintendent. And the main thing was I wanted to be in a system where I could also be close to teachers. And that's the bottom line, whether the system has 27,000 students in it, as we both worked, or it has 5,000 in it, being able to get to know our learners, getting to know our teachers, and being able to hear those voices and to say, hey, that's a really good idea. But that's the only way I found that, whether as a district administrator, a principal, or a superintendent, that we were moving ahead was listening to our community of professionals, listening to our outside community in terms of where do we want our schools to go? What are some problems that we need to solve? And how can technology help us solve those problems?
Yes. Yes.
So important.
And, it's everything you said today. Again, this was still another learning experience because of your wonderful input. And I know that we're getting more and more followers with the cognitive edge, and that this is going to be a heavily watched video. And I'm sure we're going to get some people who will definitely learn from everything you said today. And so I do want to thank you so much for taking the time out on Saturday morning to come on and again um, impart knowledge on all of us about what it's like being in all these different roles and so forth. So I really want to thank you for coming on, and really, you are definitely, and you still are somebody that I look up to and will always.
Well, I feel the same, and I'm very honored to be here with you, Danny. This was a lot of fun. I don't know how valuable, what I am giving out to your audience, but what I always believe is technology can really help us.
Yes.
But the bottom line is, it is the relationships that are formed in our classrooms, between our administrators and our educators, with our families. And really, that's where technology is going to be the most successful in supporting learning and supporting this next generation of learners, right, who are jumping into AI. And that's changing things, right? We're all learning. It's definitely not anywhere near perfect, but it's going to change technology from helping to facilitate instruction and access to instruction to now we've got to, we have to help students evaluate this information that's coming across, and how do we all use it in a way that we keep our voice, we keep our thoughts, we're still problem solving. So it is fascinating, but thank you so much for thinking of me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to see you, because you have such a fantastic background in terms of your technology expertise, your instructional. So you are always one of my go-to, small group of people that was not afraid to try something out, and also, just as importantly, say, hey, this is not going to work, but this might work. So appreciate you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching The Cognitive Edge, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.